How's it going, fight fans? Welcome to Mindful Combat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan and this is episode 5 of As Requested, my series on my channel where you decide which videos I'll be making next by just commenting in the comment section below. I'll pick out a video request at random, and if you happen to have a channel, then I'll give your channel a shout out. If you don't, then I pick out a random channel to give out a shout out. Anyways, the video request for this video comes from Wallin Lot D Drama, who's asked me to do a video on fighters that are being pushed too soon. And basically he says fighters coming up that maybe got the marketing push too soon and the fallout and or success afterwards. Now, that's an interesting one for me, and there's a reason why I picked this, because there's a few little back areas in this that I wanted to touch on, and I felt like this video provided me a great avenue to talk about some of the stuff that's on my mind relating to fighting and MMA in particular, that I feel like some areas where it lacks. Now, the whole thing with being pushed too soon and maybe being exposed or coming undone in that process is, in mixed martial arts in particular, is that you do not get the opportunity to build up the experience you need to be able to compete at the level everyone's expecting you to compete at. So for example, if you're a fighter who's been given an instant push from the beginning, all these eyes are on you, and if Bellator, UFC, One Championship, whoever it is promoting you as, oh my god, this is our new prospect and our new prospect's going to be a future superstar, well then everyone's watching you thinking, well, let's see how good you are. Now, this comes with a few problems. If a young fighter's got all this pressure on him, firstly, he's got the pressure now, so not only is he making his journey through the realm of mixed martial arts, he's got the pressure of the fan base on him. He's going to be dealing with personal pressure as well. If anyone's ever competed, you know that comes with a ton of personal pressure that you put on yourself. And it can very easily destroy you mentally, like mentally put you in a very weak place where you can't even compete at your fullest potential. This has impacted a lot of fighters that I've known personally, and has meant that they haven't had the opportunity to grow out in the way that they could have grown out. In boxing, a lot of boxers are like criticised for can crushing or padding their records, and in MMA they'll particularly criticise you for padding your record. Now, whilst I don't think a fighter needs to go 30-0 before he has relevant opponents, I do think that there is a benefit of padding out your record, and people call it padding your record. I'm going to call it getting experience. Now, particularly for a young fighter in his early 20s, early to mid 20s, maybe even late 20s if he's young and inexperienced in his career, one of the best things he can do is just gain experience of being in a ring, gain experience of managing his camps, understanding himself, understanding his body, understanding how his body reacts, and learning about himself in the ring, so that when he is on that stage, he can perform. Now, if we're looking at boxing, which has a much more established history, and you're looking at the all-time greats, you're looking at guys like Floyd Mayweather, you're looking at guys like Muhammad Ali. All these guys, they didn't come out fighting world champions, and from day one there was never that anticipation that they're going to be able to beat the best. Now, I know what some of you guys might be thinking that watch boxing as well. Well, what about Vasyl Lomachenko? Well, that's not a good example, because he had, I believe he was 399 wins and 1 loss as an amateur. He won 2 Olympic gold medals, and we're talking about 400 amateur fights at a high level, internationally competing with a big stage in front of audiences, winning 2 Olympic gold medals. If that's not experience, what is? Fighters need the opportunity to be able to gain experience, and this question here puts me in a position where I can talk about the marketing push coming too soon, and a lot of the reasons why they did crumble. Experience is that. Now, the way I see this question is, which fighters do you think were pushed too soon and didn't live up to their hype, or wasn't able to achieve what they could have achieved? And in my opinion, a takeaway from this is, could these fighters have maybe achieved this if they didn't get the marketing push? And in my opinion, that's very true, because had all this pressure not been on them, all these eyes, and even pressure on the promotions to match them up with a relevant fighter, then maybe the fighter could have built up the experience accurately, gotten themselves to a level where they're mentally ready to compete at a certain level, confident in their abilities, and have been able to grow in their skill set to be able to fight the correct guys, to be able to make that historic resume which everyone had anticipated from them. Experience is necessary, and fighters need to be allowed the opportunity to gain experience. If they don't get the opportunity to gain their experience, well, then it's going to break them. It will break them mentally or break them physically, and that's not what we want, especially as purists of the sport, and we want to push a best possible product of the sport. There is no reason for a lot of this to be happening. Now, off the bat, I'm going to give some honourable mentions before I go into my top 3 that I really think embody this discussion. Now, the top 3 would be Paige Van Zandt. Not top 3. Some honourable mentions will be fighters like Paige Van Zandt, who was pushed too fast, maybe because she was an attractive young lady and there was a lot of attention on her. No way should have been pushed that fast. Back in the days, Houston Alexander, because he got a few of them highlight incredible knockouts. Todd Duffy, because he debuted with that fast knockout. Mike and Venom Page, because practically from day one he was getting them highlight reel knockouts and everyone was interested in him. Michael Venom Page is an interesting one because he got to fight tons and tons and tons of cans, but I believe that people were very critical of him the whole time because he was so heavily marketed and pushed. Then you got someone like Soccer Jew, who was 4-1 after he had pulled off 2 incredible back-to-back performances and then got matched up with Machida in his first UFC fight, and Philip Nova, who got pushed to the next GSP and Anderson Silva. It's kind of crazy. Now, one of the things that I forgot to mention in my earlier little speech or rant, or whatever you want to call it there, is a lot of the time the reason why these fighters are given this heavy marketing push is because they've shown glimpses of greatness, and maybe they've put themselves in a position where they've drawn a few attention and the promotion's gone boom, cha-ching, that's my guy, I'm going to load up on him, let's sell him as a future world champion. Now, a great performance in its own right doesn't mean that a fighter should be pushed immediately, because it just doesn't give a fighter the opportunity to grow, like I keep saying. So now let's get into my list. At number 3, I've got Rose Namajunas. And the Rose Namajunas, you might be thinking, well, she's a world champion and she was piecing up Jessica Andrade before she got finished and she beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and all of that stuff is true. It is true, and she's an odd example where she's been able to deal with that impact of being pushed too early, marketed too early as a superstar, and lose and be able to rebuild herself, and that shows something about her mentally, and there can be some success from this. And the question did ask me, and or success afterwards, and she is a perfect example of someone who has success afterwards. But let's look at this. Rose Namajunas, when she went into a fight with Carla Esparza on the back of a call it a successful run on the Ultimate Fighter House, so call that 3 fights, she was 2-1. She was 2-1 and technically coming off a loss to Tisha Torres going into that world title fight. Now, she came through the ranks in the Ultimate Fighter, so things are a bit different, but she should never have even been put in the Ultimate Fighter House with a humble record of 2 wins and 1 loss. That doesn't, if she wins as a world title, she has an official record of 3 wins and 1 loss, and that in itself embodies everything that's wrong with MMA. So coming into a fight with Carla Esparza, we're talking about a 21-year-old fighter who was 2-1, was coming off technically a loss, and was fighting Carla Esparza, who was 11-2, the Invicta champion. I believe she was like 29 years old in her physical prime, in the prime of her career, and she was on a long run, and she had a lot of experience, particularly compared to her. She had also beaten Tisha Torres on the Tough House, who had last beaten Rose Namajunas. Rose Namajunas was not ready for that fight. Now, she had earned the fight, no problem. Give her the fight. That's the way she's played out. She put herself in that position, and she had put herself in a position where she gets the title fight early. I have no issue with that, but the problem is that going into that fight, she was being marketed as the next Ronda Rousey. Now, if you remember, Ronda Rousey was the shit at the time, and everyone was going bonkers about Rose Namajunas. She's young, she's attractive, she's talented, she's finishing fights. Rare. Everyone's going crazy, losing their mind about this young girl, but this young girl's coming in there. This is a girl that's had loads of mental health issues previously. Now she's dealing with all this pressure all around the world. Everyone's looking at her. She's an international superstar. All of a sudden, boom, how's she meant to deal with this? She doesn't have the tools necessary to be able to deal with this. Even generally in life, she struggles with mental health issues. So how can she deal with the expectation that she's going to go out there and become a superstar? And now she's got to go out there and emphatically finish Carla Esparza, Invicta champion, who's got a lengthy resume and tons of experience and is a really talented fighter. Think about that. That was wrong. Now, Rose Namajunas was able to come through this, put together some wins, demonstrate her position, rebound. She learned from it, and it looked like coming into the Joanna Jędrzejczyk fights that she had learned how to deal with all of this shit, brushed it off, and she had come into her own, and it was beautiful to watch, and it was really beautiful. So she's a good example of success, but I still feel like her career could have been different had she not been rushed too early. Now, the next one will be Sage Northcutt. Sage Northcutt is a young man who I feel like I have a real affection for. Affection, something like that for. I like him. He's a young, humble young man, and he became a superstar practically overnight. This is a guy who came in, he was 19-0. He had 5 professional fights. 5 professional fights, that's it. 19-0, sorry. He was 19 years old and he had 5 professional fights. He was not ready for the marketing push. Now, he got signed because he done well on Dana White's Contenders, but that was correct for him because that was on a regional show, and he shined on a regional show, which is where a 19-year-old belongs. Then he comes over to the UFC, fights about to be cut UFC fighter, a guy that should be a regional talent anyway. He finishes him off pretty spectacularly. All of a sudden he blows up. Now you've got this young, good-looking kid with spiky hair and incredible body that does backflips, and he's made a superstar, and he's in great shape, and he's done some movie or TV shows as a child. I don't know, I've seen some shit about that, and he's already a superstar now. Now there's tons and tons of pressure on him, so he's being sold by the UFC as this superstar, the supernova, Super Sage Northcutt. He's Superman. He's incredible. He's 19 years old. He's 19. That don't make no sense. Let the boy develop. Just because Mike Tyson was a world heavyweight champion at 19, 20 years old doesn't mean everyone's going to follow suit. Mike Tyson was also considered washed up by the time he was in his late 20s. So think about this. You need to give the fighters an opportunity to develop. Now, Sage Northcutt is a guy who got rushed in, and then he got matched up on short notice in a weight division above against Brian Barberina, a fight that he should... well, maybe he should have won the fight with Brian Barberina, but Brian Barberina has proven himself to be durable, competitive, and tough. He trains with Ben Henderson, had been training with Ben Henderson for years, had about 20, well, no, I think he was 9-2 coming into that fight, so he was experienced, and he was coming into that fight with a chip on his shoulder. He had already beaten some really tough guys, and no one expected nothing on him. So not only is Sage going into a fight with a tough guy, everyone's expecting him to smush him in under a minute. There was no way he could have won, and I feel like that pressure really impacted Sage Northcutt. And then if you look at the trajectory of his career from there onwards, it's kind of represented that, and the fight with Cosmo Alexander is heartbreaking. So get well, Sage. Take care of yourself, and you're still a young man. I don't know if you ever hear, still a young man. I'd still believe he's got a huge upside, maybe not competitively, but if he is groomed the correct way, which he should be, he shouldn't be getting matched up with these guys who've had 100 pro fights, then maybe he can go on. Number one is a guy that breaks my heart, and it's a fighter that really should have been looked after. Bellator had an opportunity. Bellator had a true opportunity to groom a prospect and make him a world champion one day, and he could have been like Oscar De La Hoya of mixed martial arts, and I don't say that lightly. We're talking about, and I'm talking about Aaron Pico. Aaron Pico is a guy who had wrestling credentials and boxing credentials. And he's young, there's a lot of buzz about him, he's got this superstar appeal to him. And then you've got this young man who hasn't even debuted yet as a professional fighter. He's going to debut, and he's been put on opening of the pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden. Everyone's talking about him, and he's fighting a guy in a weight class he shouldn't be in. He should never have been a lightweight. He's fighting this guy who's 6 foot tall. He himself is about 5'8", who's had about 10 professional fights. This is his debut. He's fighting a guy who's had losses, who had wins, who had tough fights, who's been around for a long time. Zach Freeman, I believe he had been fighting for about 5-6 years. This is his pro debut. He's got tons of pressure on. He's fighting a much bigger guy with much more experience, and this is all because of the marketing appeal that surrounds him. So all these people are talking about Aaron Pico, and Aaron Pico is a talented kid, but he was not ready for this. He's making his debut, his goddamn debut. He's making his debut in Madison Square Garden. All these interviews being held against him. How is a 19-year-old who has never fought competitively going to be ready for this? There is no way he's going to be ready for this. He should not be having this fight. What happens? He gets matched up, and he gets finished in the first round. Instead of Bellator doing the correct thing and saying, okay, you know what, we've learned our lesson, we're going to build him up slowly now. They continue to match him up with fighters. He has never fought anyone that has less than 7-8 wins. That's incredible. He's 0-1 fighting a guy who's 7-3. He wins that fight. Then he goes on to fight. He's fighting all these tough fights against fighters he should not be fighting. Leonardo Higo, who fought for the Bellator bantamweight title 2 times. Then he's coming up and he's fighting Aaron Pico. Then he's getting matched up with Henry Corrales, a dude who's talented, durable, tough. Then he gets brutally knocked out and gets matched up against a 12-0 prospect. This is a problem here. So this question, I don't know if I've answered it correctly, bro, so sorry if I haven't, but the way I've seen it is being given the marketing push too early, and that almost coincides with lofty expectations and matched up incorrectly. With Aaron Pico, I believe that Bellator lost a true opportunity to have a superstar that really could have made them compete against the UFC. Now, you may say, well, he's still young, but this is the problem now. He's 22 years old. He's got a record of 4 wins and 3 losses. He's been brutally finished 3 times, brutally knocked out twice this year. Those things impact the fighter mentally. They'll definitely damage a fighter at his age. They will take away ability. Now, when we're talking about potential, Freddie Roach had said that Aaron Pico could have won world titles in the world of boxing. Aaron Pico demonstrated potential and showed true glimpses of greatness in his 4-fight win streak. He just kept on getting rushed because the marketing appeal behind him was too much. If the marketing was taken off him a bit and he was given a chance to develop, even after the Zach Freeman fight, if they let him get 8-9 fights, what's 8 or 9 fights? If a guy has an 8-1 record, he's a rookie. If a guy's 8-0, 9-0, he's a rookie. He's a rookie. Yes, a pro fighter. He's a rookie. He got given the marketing push so early that he never got the chance to develop, and then all of a sudden, he's there, the victim of some brutal knockouts, and that's the way it played out. So guys, those are my 3 fighters that were given the marketing push a bit too soon, and there was some success there for Rose Namajunas, and for guys like Aaron Pico and Sage Northcutt. Yes, they was able to make some money along the way. They made money early in their career, but they potentially damaged themselves from the opportunity, or held them back from the opportunity to have a very lucrative career in the future had they built up the correct experience and confidence and being in that demeanor. But then being a pro fighter, you're going to think that you can beat anyone at any time. And I've been there when I was training hard, when I was training 6 days a week, twice a day, and just purely martial arts, and I felt like I could beat anyone in the country. That wasn't the case. Of course it wasn't the case, but fighters need to be protected from themselves, and their coach management should be able to be in charge and say, look guys, great, you want to give us the marketing push, we'll take it, no problem, but this is not the fights that we're going to be taking. So those are my guys, and that's just, I hope I never misinterpreted that question. What's you guys' picks for fighters that were given the marketing push too early, and what's your thoughts on whether or not fighters should be given the opportunity to grow their experience, etc. Anyways guys, for this video shout out, I'm going to give a big shout out to my boy Boxing MMA 365. Now I said it 3 instead of 3 because I listened to his content and he's from Ireland. That channel's run by 2 great guys, Tom and Gary, who give strictly audio based content where they break down fights, talk about cards, and when they're talking about it, it's literally you just focus on the content. So a good thing to do is just plug it in, listen to whatever they've got to say while you're doing whatever it is you're doing. That's what I tend to do. They're great guys, they've got great content, give them a check out. So guys, what's going to be my next video? Why don't you comment below with your video ideas and let me know what your suggestions are for my next video. If I missed your suggestions from this video a week or last week or the week before, doesn't matter. I'm still going through all of my videos, and I tend to pick the one that I feel like A, will get me the most clicks, straight up, facts, and B, that I feel like I can do the best representation of, and I want to feel like I have some passion for it. If I've missed out your suggestions, I will get to them. I will get to them all eventually, every Monday. This is about you guys, as requested guys. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really enjoyed making this one because I felt that I had some stuff on my chest I wanted to let out. Thank you guys. Mindful Combat.